All right, joining me now. Very excited to have him here. It's been a while, and I hope he's in a good mood. He had a rough Monday night, so we'll get into that. But before we get into that, let me just say this is the legendary Hall of Famer Paul Heyman from the WWE. And Paul was scheduled to be on last year around this time. It was in May, and that was the 1 week only we missed doing a pod last year because Sports Illustrated was going through ownership and managerial upheaval. And I was technically unemployed for a week, and it was the week Paul was supposed to be on, go figure. So it's been way too long. It hasn't been on since 2023. So I thank you for doing this and look forward to it.
You owe me a favor now.
I was going to say, I feel like maybe by the end of this, I can get a favor out of you because everyone's getting favors out of you. There's a lot of favors going around.
You know, one of my favorite movies is a Brian De Palma film called Carlito's Way, starring Al Pacino and Sean Penn and John Leguizamo. And there's a great scene in the movie where Pacino and Sean Penn are sitting together at a table, and Sean Penn says, this and that, and Pacino says, okay, I'll do it. And Sean Penn says, great, I owe you a favor. And Pacino says, no favor kill you faster than a bullet. And boy, I should have listened to the advice given by Mr. De Palma in that movie all the way back from 1993. And despite the fact that I am a film buff, right. I neglected the lesson taught by Carlito's Way, and it has bit me in the ass exponentially.
I want to definitely get into you being a film buff, but we'll do that in a little bit. Let's stay with the favor situation. I should mention, bad job by me, WrestleMania this Saturday, Las Vegas, Saturday and Sunday, Las Vegas, Saturday, CM Punk, Paul's best friend, which I have to question, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. And then on Sunday, we've got Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, Las Vegas, WrestleMania, all on Peacock. So let's get that going. Now, you owed CM Punk a favor. He would like you to be in his corner for that match. Now you owe Seth Rollins a favor. But in all this...
According to Seth Rollins, I do.
Yes.
I didn't promise Seth Rollins a favor. Seth Rollins invoked the fact that he did something for me, and therefore, in his mind, I owe him a favor.
Now, I have always been a Roman Reigns guy. Roman is nice enough to come on this podcast regularly.
You're welcome. I'm the one that does that schedule.
I love having him on. He's always been great to me. When I saw him perform in person, I was right there acknowledging. And I don't know if I like what I've seen between you and Roman. I feel like there's a loyalty issue here. How would you defend yourself on that accusation?
Well, I didn't realize that when you said there's a loyalty issue that the accusation was headed my way. It is an accusatory statement that I just don't know towards whom, but I think you have clearly identified that your question and declarative statement combined is all directed towards the Wiseman. It's not an issue of loyalty. It is a demonstration of the greatest loyalty this industry has ever seen. Anybody can be monogamous in a relationship, and I don't just mean a sexual relationship. You can be monogamous in a professional relationship as well.
Right. And
it's easy to be monogamous in such relationships. The loyalty is never tested. The true test of loyalty is when there are conflicts within that loyalty. And that's what makes this dynamic so compelling, so riveting, so interesting, is that the loyalty is strained here, and it's severely tested because there are other factors in play. I saw a lot of comparisons to this is the equivalent of when you really like a couple on a soap opera and the ex-wife comes into town. And And as much as I appreciate the comparison and the analogy, I don't agree with it. Because in that case, the loyalty is to the person to whom you are betrothed. That's not this situation. I am loyal to my tribal chief Roman Reigns, and I always will be. I will never be disloyal to him. I'm loyal to my best friend in the world, CM Punk, and I will never be disloyal to him.
Right.
This loyalty is strained because the passion that exists in these professional relationships is so deep. The disruption of the industry that Punk and I caused in 2012, and the disruption of the industry that Roman and I have caused since 2020, runs so deep, has become such calling cards for us, that when credit needs to be shared, spotlight needs to be shared, access to the Wiseman needs to be shared, there is obviously jealousy, envy, and simple emotion of territorial control. Roman Reigns does not like to pick up the phone and call his wise man or text his wise man, and I say, just give me 1 minute, I'm wrapping up with Punk.
Well,
And Punk doesn't like it either, on the flip side.
I don't want to boil it down to something very simplistic, but it does seem to me. Now, I am not a wise man. I do not have a tribal chief, but I do have a best friend. And the question is, are you supposed to be more loyal as a wise man or as a best friend? What is the answer?
But why do I have to be more loyal to either? Why can't I be equally 100% loyal to both?
Well, it doesn't seem like they're letting you be equal to both. I mean,
And-
Roman
and-
put his hand on your face and shoved you to the ground last night.
It's only demonstrative of the level of passion that he has for his wise man. If he wouldn't get that upset with me, then he must not love me that much. He wouldn't care. He'd shrug his shoulders. Roman Reigns is the coolest character in the history of not only WWE, but in sports, entertainment, and sports entertainment.
Right.
He can, doesn't bother me, F off, goodbye, have a nice life, will never think about you again ever. And that's easy for him. He does that really, really, really well. He doesn't seem to be willing to do that with me because he cares about his wise man. He loves his wise man. And he loves his wise man to such a degree that he doesn't want to share his wise man. And it's up to me to figure out a way, with some wisdom applied, hopefully, that I can make these forces understand the other's need and how it doesn't conflict with their own.
I like that. I like I can get into, he cares about you so much. That's why he's sort of jealous. So we'll see how this plays out on. Now, the favor that Punk asked you was to be in his corner of this match at WrestleMania. My niece brought this up, who's a big wrestling fan. I didn't think of it. Could there be a loophole? Is this like, did he say specifically in my corner for the entire match? You can be in his corner to start the match, and then maybe you're in another corner.
Then I'm walking him down the aisle like he's the bride at a wedding. That's not what he wants. Here it is. In 2005, shortly after the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view, I had a few months left. I had 6 months left on my WWE contract. My falling out with that management structure was so severe that I wasn't coming back to Raw or SmackDown. Doing the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view was it. They had a situation in Ohio Valley Wrestling, which was the developmental territory at the time, and they needed a new person to come in and develop the talent. I had 6 months left on my contract. They had every right to pull that trigger. They pulled the trigger. I went to OVW. I would fly in on Tuesday nights, do the show on Wednesday, fly home to New York on Thursday nights. Worked 1 day a week. It was from a time factor, pretty sweet gig. One of the first people that were assigned OVW was actually assigned to OVW before I got there, but he wasn't supposed to start until a few weeks after I got there, was CM Punk. And management didn't know what to do with him. And I got a call one day saying, hey, that guy Punk, just get rid of him, fire him. And I wouldn't do it because I didn't do the hirings, therefore I didn't want to do the firings. And I wouldn't fire Punk. And so much so that when we resurrected ECW, which was a terrible mistake, as everyone knows, the very first person that I brought with me from the developmental areas or from the WWE roster was CM Punk. In the same way that when I took over SmackDown in 2002, and we did a new talent initiative, the very first draft pick that I had for SmackDown was John Cena. So here we are 4 years later, 2006, and I'm being given an opportunity to bring up some new talent into the new ECW. First person I picked, CM Punk. When that falling out happened, and Punk said, oh my God, without you, they're going to fire me. I said, no, they can't hold you down. You're going to main event WrestleMania. And when you do, bring me back and make them deal with us. And we'll go to the ring together, and I'll be in your corner when you main event your first WrestleMania. So this is a dream that we both had dating back to 2005. This is a promise that was made in 2006 when I left the company. And it's something that he lived and helped him strive for and helped him attain his goals. To be blunt with you, I think we both thought that Punk was going to main event WrestleMania this year against either Gunther or Cody Rhodes. If you ask me, even money, who was going to win the Royal Rumble and or the Elimination Chamber, I'd say Punk's going to win one of them.
Right.
And therefore, Punk was going to face one of the champions at WrestleMania in a main event. And it wouldn't conflict with whatever Roman Reigns was going to do, whether he would be facing the other champion or facing Seth Rollins or whomever. And the tribal chief would understand, hey, listen, this is my friend. This is a favor from 20 years ago. How could it be denied? And unfortunately, the interests conflicted when it became Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus CM Punk.
Right. Well, it will be fascinating to see what happens on Saturday night because, like you said, you have those three individuals in the match. You're there at ringside in CM Punk's corner, not the Tribal Chief's corner. So we will be looking to see how that gets settled, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to go backwards a little bit now, if we can. We got WrestleMania coming up this weekend. We'll still talk about it a little more, but I want to, since it's been so long since I've had you on, I want to just get into some older stuff that we've missed over the times. But let me start with this. I've had each of the people on, Cody, Roman, I had Seth on as well over the last year after last year's WrestleMania, which I think was the greatest ending to a WrestleMania we've ever seen with the way it was laid out. Undertaker, Cena, the Shield, all that stuff. I asked them this question. I'm going to ask it to you. When you're in that moment, you're at ringside, it goes dark. The Undertaker comes out. Cena's there. The Rock, I didn't even mention that was stupid of me. The Rock is there. Now, obviously, Cody beats Roman. You're not happy with that. But can you, in that moment when it's happening, in your head realize like this is one of the greatest things that's ever happened in wrestling, that this is so cool? Or are you in performer mode and you don't think that, you can't think that way till it's all over?
Well, you know if it's working because if it's not working, what do you do to fix it? So it's a constant, in the world of performance art, it is a micro moment by micro moment assessment of, is this working? Is this on track? Are we in a synergistic communication situation with the audience. Because if you lose the audience, you have to get them back.
Right.
It's no different than Shakespeare in the Park. If you're doing Othello and you lose the interest of the audience, how do you get them back? And you have to be able to feel the pulse of the audience and the rhythm of the audience and the breath of the audience and your own interactivity with the audience and the audience's immersement into the product to gauge whether this is working or not working. Whether it's Travis Scott or the Rolling Stones, if they sell out a stadium and they're jamming with the audience and the audience is in rhythm with the song, you don't change the tempo. But if for some reason on this particular night, the audience is not vibing with a song that has worked for years for you, you change it up on the fly so that you lure the audience back into it. So it's.
But for you, I would imagine for you, that's very easy to do because of you've been in it for so long and you're so freaking good at it. But for the typical average WWE superstar, is that difficult to do, or that's part of the gig and they can all do it well?
This is a very arrogant answer, but I'm not out there with a lot of typically average WWE superstars.
Right.
So I have the blessing and the good fortune of working with a top-notch Hall of Fame All-Star cast and ensemble cast most times. But if I'm teaching someone who has not experienced that, it's very much a factor of just feeling the crowd and understanding the relationship between the performer and the presentation and the audience and the performer, and how the three of them need to mesh.
How often does it happen with you specifically, or the people you're involved with, your storylines, where you're out there, you feel like you don't have the crowd, you're trying to do something to get the crowd back, and you just can't get the crowd back? Does that ever happen?
I'm sure it has, though. I
rarely, though, you would say.
We're pretty prepared.
Yeah.
And we're pretty prepared to go in many different directions if we have to. And most of the people that I work with are really good at improving to recover a fumble, even if the fumble is coming right out of even if they threw us the ball and we just, it went right through our fingers and we didn't catch it.
I would assume that WrestleMania last year, though, you never had one split second where you thought the crowd wasn't with you on that one, because the crowd seemed to be, that was as perfect as it could get, I would imagine.
I mean, I know I can speak for myself. I know I can speak for Roman Reigns. At least at this moment, I can.
Yeah.
I think we both felt that crowd night one. I think we knew night one that crowd was going to eat it up. I think we knew early in the day when the first people were coming into the stadium and grabbing their seats, that you could feel the enjoyment of the anticipation of what this main event was going to deliver and over-deliver on.
Yeah.
So the buzz was so palatable,
right?
Palpable that both that it's. I worked with somebody when I was a rookie named Austin Idol, and Austin Idol was great. And Austin Idol could literally walk out to the ring and go, "I feel it from this direction. Yes, that's the direction I feel it in. This is where the audience is most passionate." And he'd be right every night. Right. And then Rick Rude was the same way. Ravishing Rick Rude was the same way. He could stand in the middle of the ring and he'd just talk over his shoulder, go, "Paul E., that's where the riot's going to come from. These people are eating too many pretzels and they're too into their beer tonight." And we could play this side of the ring and you'd get, boo, this type of response, and even give a dirty look to this side of the ring, and they were climbing the rails.
Rick Rude was, you have it when all you have to do is say what I'd like right now. As soon as he would say that, that was it. But I want to take a little bit of a left turn here just because we're talking about the crowds and it's just in my head while we're talking about the crowds. You guys are just coming off this European tour where those crowds were insane. I mean, watching it on TV, Netflix, obviously. What is it? Why are those crowds so over the top? Is it because you guys don't go there as often? What is the reason why those European crowds are bonkers?
Well, there's a lot of answers to that, and some of them are very declarative, and some of them are very speculative. Number one, these are soccer crowds, and it's a completely different atmosphere.
Right, right.
If there may be a lot of synergy, there may be a lot of crossover. There may be a lot of crossover between WWE and UFC audiences. One would hope so. We're owned by the same company. But the culture at a UFC event is completely different than the culture at a WWE event. The atmosphere at a UFC event is completely different than the atmosphere at a WWE event. And it could be the same people. In a 20,000 seat arena, you could have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 of the same fans that go to WWE and UFC, and they will have a different time at a UFC event than they will at a WWE event. It's just a different event. The European fans are, having gone to so many soccer matches, football matches over there, they bring that culture to us. They don't have different rhythms for different events. That's their rhythm. Right. A friend of mine said to me that for her daughter's college graduation, she told her daughter, "I'll take you anywhere on the face of the planet for anything that you want to see." And the daughter, who was a Taylor Swift fan, said, "I'd like to see the Taylor Swift concert in Lyon, France." And Lyon was a place last year that WWE went to, and the crowd reaction was just absolutely mind-boggling great. To where I know we're going back and presenting a much bigger show soon, or announcing that soon. And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because that is the greatest audience to see anything in." So the people that go to the Taylor Swift concert in Lyon, France, are the same people that will go to a football match or come to a WWE event. They go to events to have a good time. And that is part of the non-hypercritical European crowds that can eat you up if they want to. They can get super critical, but they're not looking to be super critical. They don't show up to be critical. They show up saying, "I paid my money. You give me a good time, or I'm going to have a good time on my own with or without you. Since I spent the money, I'm not having a bad time."
Yeah, I feel like the attitude here for everything is, "I paid, now entertain me."
Well,
not just at wrestling, at everything, basically.
Doesn't that go back to Nirvana?
Yes. Here we are now.
Here we are now. Entertain us.
Yeah.
The demands of an American crowd are different than the wishes of a European crowd.
Right. All right. Let me go back to last year's WrestleMania to put a bow on it. Scale of 1 to 10. How happy were you with your epic Hall of Fame speech?
With the Hall of Fame speech?
Yeah.
1 to 10?
Yeah. Did it come? Yeah. Perfect. 10. Just the way you wanted it. No, you didn't miss anything. You didn't leave anything. You got everything you wanted. It was a perfect 10 for you.
I got to say what I wanted to say in the manner that I wanted to say it. There was no script approval. None asked. None offered.
And
there was no script. I mean, there was a monitor that people could clearly see that simply said Heyman speech on it. So there was no script. There was no teleprompter. There was no monitor. There were no notes. It was from the heart, and very happy.
Yeah. Did not one single person in WWE know that at some point in your speech you were going to ask people to perform a certain act on a certain body part.
I was asked I asked what my restrictions were.
Okay. How's that not a restriction? What were the restrictions if that wasn't a restriction?
We're inducting Paul Heyman into the Hall of Fame in Philadelphia.
Right.
They want that Paul Heyman.
Oh, they got it.
Give them that Paul Heyman. Okay, you understand what that means, right? I mean, you understand what you're giving me a green light to go to. Yes, we do. That's the Paul Heyman they want. That's the Paul Heyman we want you to give them. Okay.
It was memorable to say the least. It was great. And seeing you with your kids, side we don't see. And I've always said the doc that the WWE had done on you, I thought was so well done. And you know, I like the fact that you're a New Yorker too, so there's that angle of it. But that speech was as good as it gets.
Well,
tell me about this WrestleMania Vegas. It's interesting. I just over the weekend I watched there's a new doc on Peacock about WrestleMania 9.
Yeah.
That was it. Where were you? Were you in WCW when that WrestleMania took place?
What year was it?
WrestleMania 9. It was like 90. Was it? I don't know. Let's see. 90. Well, the first WrestleMania was, all right, so wait, 40 was last year. So it'll be 84, 9 and 8, 93.
You know what? Let's use some artificial intelligence that had a different name to it for the past few years called Siri, which is AI, but they didn't call it AI at the time.
It was 93. If I'm right, you owe me
was WrestleMania 9.
You owe me a favor if I'm right.
No, that's 20. That's not.
I could do it.
What year was WrestleMania 9?
You were better off with the big phone you had back in the 80s. Hold on.
I was, and I could smack people in the head with it too back then.
Alexa, what year was WrestleMania 9?
From WrestleZone.com. WrestleMania 9 took place on April 4th, 1993.
April 4th, 1993. So where was Paul Heyman?
Paul Heyman was unemployed.
Oh, really? In between? Okay.
1993. I was out of WCW. I was not yet in ECW.
Right.
And I was actually on my way to doing New York radio head-to-head with Howard Stern.
Wait a second. I never knew this. When did you do? You did New York mornings in New York. What station?
I never did it.
I was going to say, how the hell would I not know that? I'm a diehard Stern fan.
Well, what happened was when I was out of WCW, I signed with the William Morris Agency. And there was a desire in New York for anyone, to take on Howard Stern. And there was a deal that was cut with Hot 97, which was a hip hop station, to put me on head-to-head in the mornings with Howard Stern. And
I got to interrupt 1 second. Would this be you solo or like a team?
It was my show.
Okay,
go ahead. I wanted to build it to go against Stern. And, you'd think, wait a minute. You can't have a Jew boy from New York, hosting Hot 97 in the mornings. That doesn't make any sense in terms of demographics or ethnicity or demographic breakdown or genre. And of course, then years later, Peter Rosenberg does it.
Right.
Because we all know Peter Rosenberg is like Sam Roberts and all the others out there. They're all Paul Heyman wannabes. So I was going to do Hot 97 head-to-head with Howard Stern in the mornings, Monday to Friday on New York radio. And right before the deal closed, I ended up going into Philadelphia as the booker, the head writer, the whatever, however you want, the talent coordinator, the executive producer of this tiny little bingo hall promotion that had a Tuesday night 6 p.m. time slot on Philadelphia Sports Channel. Remember Sports Channels?
Sure do.
Called Eastern Championship Wrestling, ECW.
My brain is so rattled right now by this, I can't even comprehend it. Paul Heyman well, I've listened to Stern my whole life. I still listen to him. Everyone likes to shit on him, but I still listen to him. And First of all, the thought of Paul Heyman on 97.1, like you said, is fascinating because it's a hip hop rap channel. And then you going head to head with Howard. Now, Howard back then, like, was thought of as like, no one could out talk Howard. So if it would have been you going against Howard, it would have been, I can't even imagine. And that's when radio wars were fun. It's not like today. Tell me this though. You ever think about what your life would have been like if you took the radio deal? Like,
No, I never go back to crossroads and wonder what if. It goes back to what my father used to teach me. If your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle. She doesn't, so she's not. I never think that way. What if I didn't get fired in WCW? What if I didn't go into ECW? What if when ECW was going out of business, I didn't go to WWE? What if in 2012 I came back at first with Brock? What if in 2012 Brock didn't come back to WWE and those talks never would have opened and I didn't come back? I never think about things like that. It just whether it's manifest destiny or whether it's fate or whether it's just I'm enjoying the ride too much even on its darkest days. I never think about what if. I deal with the present and how to propel it into the future.
Got it. Now, the reason this all started by me, I brought up the WrestleMania 9 in Vegas because this year's WrestleMania, Saturday and Sunday night on Peacock, is back in Vegas, obviously a much larger scale. And I'm curious because I used to love going to Vegas way back when. Do you like having it in Vegas, or do you feel like there's too many things to do in Vegas? Obviously, you guys are busy, but do you feel like even just maybe not even for yourself, I don't want to use the word temptation, but like, can guys go gamble at night? Can guys enjoy an adult establishment at night? Are they on the strip? Or is everyone so locked in with WrestleMania that because Vegas itself can be the distraction? Give me the wise man take on that.
You can find decadence and debauchery anywhere you want on the face of this planet, with the exception, most likely, of Saudi Arabia. And outside of Saudi Arabia, if you're looking for decadence and debauchery, you're going to find it. Whether you're in Las Vegas, where it's wide out in the open and on billboards, or whether you're in New York or in New Jersey, or you're in Rhode Island, or you're in Vermont or New Hampshire, you can be going up into the northern regions of New England to watch a Bernie Sanders speech, and I guarantee you, if you're looking for hookers and methamphetamine, you're going to find it there. It doesn't matter where you are. If you want it, it's available. So,
but those places don't have the strip or the not stigma. That's the wrong word. What's the word I'm looking for? The allure of the Vegas Strip.
Yeah, but listen, it's not about the allure. If you're here to do business, if you're here to understand the enormity of WrestleMania, if you're here to understand the enormity of the money at stake, if you're here to understand that your legacy is at stake, if you're here to understand that business is at stake, if you're here to understand that this is how you feed your family, this is how you fund your children's college funds, your grandchildren's college funds, their grandchildren's college funds, if you understand what's at stake and you take what you do seriously, then those distractions are not distractions. They are the lure for everybody else to fall for, but you're too dedicated, too smart, too ambitious to your own cause to allow anything to distract you.
Do you and the WWE wrestlers, superstars, do you get a chance to have a little downside and responsible fun while you're in Vegas, or is it all business? Like,
I don't know what responsible fun is.
Well, if your best friend CM Punk came to you and said, "Paul, let's go hit the blackjack tables Thursday night,"
he wouldn't.
Okay,
he's dedicated. He's
the wise man. Does the wise man play blackjack?
Not on WrestleMania week, no.
That's my question. That was my point. So WrestleMania week, everyone is locked into nothing but WrestleMania.
Well, those in my circle certainly are. Yeah.
Okay.
And if someone that I knew that I cared about would fall for one of those traps, I would certainly endeavor to impart some wisdom onto them as to what they're jeopardizing by their lack of concentration to the task at hand.
Okay, but outside of maybe causing a complete scene, if Roman Reigns or CM Punk wanted to go play blackjack for 2 hours one night during WrestleMania week, is that considered a bad thing?
That's like me asking you if your wife wanted to sleep with your father, what would you say to her? You don't even know what you would. You sit there and go,
But
I can't even imagine the circumstance. I can't imagine the circumstance that on WrestleMania week, Roman Reigns can be tempted by a cookie. I can't imagine that he would violate his diet. I can't imagine that he'd violate his training program. I can't imagine that he would violate his sleeping regimen. I can't imagine that he gets up at 5 a.m. to do cardio. I can't imagine that he'd hit the snooze button to 5:02. I just can't. Nor could I imagine that for CM Punk and understanding
he's
Seth Rollins' dedication to this.
Right.
As The Rock said, who was the MVP of last year's WrestleMania? Seth Rollins. And I can't imagine. And you look at Seth Rollins, not only his body of work, but you look at his physical body. That's not just dedicated to core training systems. That's dedicated to someone that spends his life sacrificing pizza and Chinese food.
Right.
That's
me
for meal prep.
That's me, unfortunately.
And constant, consistent, scheduled, regimented gym work.
All right. But you and Roman do enjoy Del Frisco's every now and again. Not
WrestleMania week.
Not WrestleMania week. Got it.
Oh, God.
All right, so let me go here. Everyone has an opinion on the John Cena heel turn. You are thought of not just as on-air talent, but we know behind the scenes and storylines, you know what you're doing better than anyone. You're not going to come on here and say you don't like it, but tell me how you think it's gone. If there is anything you would do differently, if you think it's been done perfectly, your assessment of this heel turn that people wanted for a long time, didn't happen, and now has happened.
My assessment is I'll be able to give you an assessment after Sunday night.
Okay.
Because then we'll see how it works.
Right.
There are several short-term goals, let alone long-term goals, that John Cena has.
Right.
And in those short-term goals, they apply to the long-term goals. And here's the best analogy that I can give you on that. Mm-hmm. If someone is designed in baseball to cross home plate to score a run, does it matter how they get to first base? Does it matter if they hit a single or if they take a walk? Does it matter if they get hit by a pitch? The answer is get to first base. Once you get to first base, have you accomplished your goal? No. The goal is to get past home plate. So if they steal second, have they accomplished their goal? No. They're on second base. Now, your goal from home plate is to go to first, second, to third, and then home. So if I get to first base, I'm there. My short-term goal has been completed, but I may fail in the long-term goal. I get to second base, my short-term goal from first base is completed. And I can't look at first base and go, I got to get to third. You can't get to third without going to second. So John Cena is rounding the bases right now.
Right.
Has he hit on every level of his short-term goals? It sure looks that way to me. But if he doesn't get to home base, then it was all for naught. If he does, then this was a monumental success in a most interesting, compelling fashion. And we won't know that answer until WrestleMania weekend is completed and the first chapter of this John Cena antagonist turn is complete. And then we'll know, was it good? Was it great? Was it perfect? Was it imperfect? How did he do? How did he not do? What was the reaction? Was it worth it? Should he have done it? Should he have not done it? All these answers happen live in front of your eyes as history unfolds on Sunday night at WrestleMania.
I would love to get like a straightforward answer on this. I don't think you can do it, but I'm going to take a shot. And if you don't like the question, just tell me to F off. If you were the head booker of the WWE, if you were Paul Levesque, who would you have win Sunday night? Cody Rhodes or John Cena? Would you make John Cena have a 17th record-breaking title run, or would you keep the white-hot babyface Cody going as he is?
Both. See, I'm not Paul Levesque, and I don't have to face those decisions.
Okay, fair enough.
And
I had to take a shot.
oh no, and I listen. I appreciate the answer. I appreciate the question. And here's the honest answer. If I'm Paul Levesque, or if I'm in Paul Levesque's position, the question in and of itself is in a different language. Because it's never just about, do you give John Cena number 17 or do you keep Cody on this historic run? Because there are so many other factors involved. What are we doing at SummerSlam? What are we doing in Saudi Arabia? What are we doing at Survivor Series? What's the main event for WrestleMania 42? What's the trajectory for WrestleMania 43? If John Cena is to win, how does he win? Where does he go from there? Who are his opponents besides the rematch with Cody Rhodes? If Cody Rhodes wins, where does he go from there? Who are his opponents? Who does he work with at SummerSlam, Survivor Series, 42, 43? Is he done with Cena at that time, or does he continue? How does he win the match? Why does he win the match? What happens to Cena if Cody wins the match? What happens to Cody if Cena wins the match? All these are variables. And also, then you have to consider what else is happening on the rest of the shows. How do they affect where you want to be? The Monday after Raw, the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, the Friday Night SmackDown after WrestleMania, the contract with Netflix, the sponsorships that we have, when Elon Musk colonizes Mars in the first WrestleMania that we want to do there, all the many things that come into play. So it's never just the fantasy booking of do you give John Cena the historic number 17? Do you have Cody continue on his historic run? There are so many other factors that go into being the lead scriptwriter, the booker, the executive producer, the chief content officer, then the chief creative officer, than simply does Cena win? Does Cody win? Why?
Oh, I love that answer. That doesn't answer directly, but I love the explanation. It works out perfectly. And you mentioned fantasy booking. I want to stop being like an interviewer for Sports Illustrated, and I want to be a WWE fan and make a statement and just have you react to the statement if we could do that.
Sure.
I would like at some point, doesn't have to be this year, it could be next, whenever, at some point, I would like Cody Rhodes to turn heel and have Paul Heyman be his manager, advocate, Wiseman, friend, whatever the title is. It's got to be a different title than you've had with all those guys. Your reaction?
I love Cody Rhodes. I respect Cody Rhodes. I admire Cody Rhodes. I have an affinity for Cody Rhodes. I've witnessed Cody Rhodes' growth on a daily basis up close now for several years. He is a remarkable professional, the likes of which we've never seen even in John Cena. And his approach to his performance in the ring, on the microphone, backstage, diplomatically, is to be the best that he can possibly be at every time, at every moment, at every micro moment, and to ensure that he's better than everybody else. He has a level of ambition that I can certainly relate to, and he has the ability to back up that ambition. How would our personas gel? I don't have that answer, and haven't had to put thought into it because it's not on the table at the moment because of where he is as a protagonist, as a hero. So it's not something we have to think about today. And if then the question becomes, I know we're not talking about today, we're talking about tomorrow.
No, it wouldn't be something. Yeah.
It's hard to judge where we are because just like about who would you have win, Cena or Cody, what are the variables at the time when you want to pull that trigger?
Right. There are moments in professional wrestling in the WWE where something happens and the crowd goes into a holy shit chant. For me, I don't think I've had a bigger holy shit moment in the last, maybe 3 years than Solo Sikoa putting you through a table. Were you nervous with that spot? Did you have any trepidation doing that spot? We've seen you get physical over the years, but that was another level. I think I could be wrong. You'll tell me, but and were you sort of the next day?
It's what had to be done. It's what had to be done. It's what the story called for. It's what was needed. And certainly based on the reaction to this day, it wasn't what people were expecting. People didn't think we'd go to that degree. And Solo needed to, and Jacob Fatu needed to, and Tama Tonga needed to, and Tonga Loa needed to. That rogue bloodline had to go so over the top, so grotesque, so unheard of. And they had to do it in Madison Square Garden. No doubt. That was the moment. And that was the moment. Every moment on television since the referee's hand hit 3 as Cody Rhodes pinned Roman Reigns for the title at WrestleMania 40, that was the moment we built to and had to.
And we could sort of end it and sort of tie it in with, where was the tribal chief when that happened?
Indeed. Where was he? As Seth Rollins so eloquently pointed out.
Yes.
Where was he?
And it will be Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Saturday night, WrestleMania, Peacock. Sunday night, we'll have the John Cena, Cody Rhodes match. Now, when that match goes on, Cody and Cena, are you backstage locked into a monitor watching that every second, or it's not your match? You don't have to be as locked in. What do you do during that match?
Oh, my job's done Saturday. I'll be on the strip with the hookers and the methamphetamines, looking for Bernie Sanders speeches.
Caesars, Wynn, Bellagio. We'll find you at one of those places on Sunday night.
No, you'll find me glued to the monitor watching John Cena versus Cody Rhodes.
When is your next Del Frisco's meal coming? That's what I'm more interested in.
When I get back to New York, whenever that is, I got a pretty sweet deal set up here in Las Vegas. Don't know what year or month I'm leaving.
When you go to Del Frisco's in Manhattan, do you order, or is it one of those deals where, like, you're such hot shit, the chef just brings you the stuff and you don't order?
Well, again, I have a pretty sweet deal. Those people at Del Frisco's really take care of the Wiseman. I don't come in through the front entrance. I use a private entrance. I use the private dining room. It's good to be the king of New York and everywhere else. It's nice to have the connections that I have. There are some pretty wonderful people that have become acquaintances of mine that look after their wise man, and I assure you and I assure them they are all very much appreciated.
Does Roman
and the
ever?
answer to your question is they kind of know what I like there, so I don't really need. I mean, if I'm with somebody, they say, "What would you like?" and they look at me and they just go, "You look like you're in the mood for this tonight," and they're pretty accurate in their guess.
Well, the steak. I mean, I would imagine it's the sides where you could mix it up every now and then. Like,
that's a scene from The Wolf of Wall Street. The sides. It's the sides. Roman Reigns loves the sides.
Okay,
I'm pretty basic there. I can get in trouble with the sides.
Yeah,
and the sides needs to size, and I'm trying a losing battle in my life to
join the club
to battle against the size. So yes. I'm trying to avoid the sides.
I'm glad you mentioned Wolf of Wall Street. I want to ask about movies, but I got to ask one last thing on Del Frisco. Does Roman will he ever indulge in the lemon butter cake?
Asking the wise man to reveal the tribal chief's indulgences would be a sign of disloyalty to my tribal chief. and we should.
Some would
end
argue that's already taken place with
the
CM
same.
Punk, but
You could argue. Listen. There's a lot of things you can argue, but it doesn't make you right. I would be disloyal to my tribal chief to reveal his indulgences. I will always be loyal to my tribal chief. I will always be loyal to my best friend in the world, CM Punk. And
we'll find out on
never
Saturday.
Be disloyal to either.
We'll see on Saturday. Hopefully you can approve Roman coming back on this podcast, and I'll ask him about the lemon butter cake. So last thing, because you mentioned Wolf of Wall Street. You mentioned you're a movie buff. When you were watching a movie today, not today, but in today's time, are you always looking at it through the lens of how can I use this in WWE, or can you ever just sit and enjoy a movie?
Every moment of my life is through the lens of how can I use this? And not just in WWE, but how can I use this in life as well?
Give me, if you don't mind, you don't have to explain. Give me like 3 or 4 movies that you think you've taken from the most.
Come on. We don't have that kind of time today.
Okay.
WrestleMania week. Let's do a podcast on the
just on movies.
Of just about movies and how they apply to the beautiful performance art known as World Wrestling Entertainment. Fair
enough. We will do that. I appreciate it. Paul Heyman will be in the corner of CM Punk's best friend, even though the tribal chief, the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns, will be in the match along with the great Seth Rollins. Saturday night, Peacock WrestleMania. Sunday, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, and then the Monday after WrestleMania is always that must-watch Raw, which hopefully we see where will he be? Whose side will he be on? Paul, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Enjoy Vegas and enjoy WrestleMania week.
You've been a pain in my tuchus as usual.